would do it.
You're the one that said PARC, so it's not as good as the one here.
I don't know very much about each other. I agree with whatever I see.
Something, so it's not really quite.
Yeah, what about the
I said these guys.
It's hard to get people excited about that. And they get over there. Everything but going around and goes up. Does not want to see it. The day, but the day she had no communication. I've been reading that.
Three green things in life.
Anybody not feel this? Those who can't do this, please raise.
Charlie, near back here, try again.
Come on, there we go. Harry? Harry? That woke you up? I hope so.
That wasn't my fault.
Thanks.
Done that before.
Is that better? Yeah. Harry, would you care to lead us in the pledge, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll stand? Take your covers off, all rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice to see a good crowd here tonight. I think you will find the program to be a lot of fun. Did you work on the normal living? Levi? Not yet? Okay. Just want to make sure you're under pressure. Our technical chair is in Xinjiang, Hong, China, so he's not here to give you a detailed technical report. So I'm going to play technician for the night with two major things that we have going. For those of you that have observed our efforts with the 6-meter repeater, the new cavities are in place on the mountain. The new antenna is on order, and the vast array of workforce for installations is gearing up to do the installation. Their union is complaining that we don't have enough money to pay their salaries, but we'll get there. And in addition to that, where's Bernie? Right over there. You've all heard and commented about some of the vicissitudes we have with our new repeaters. Some of you may remember that in April of last year, I jokingly commented that we were going to implement some new technology and that we will have a learning curve to go with it. We did that. And we found a variety of problems. No courtesy tone on some modes. That's built in by Wuhan Yaesu. That's how they built it. There's no easy fix. And some strange noises that we've traced to not a fault, but a characteristic of the repeaters, for which Yaesu knows they admit they have a problem. They don't have a fix for it. Yaesu did come out with a new firmware upgrade that Bernie has implemented, is implementing. Bernie has one of our repeaters, he has one of the new controllers, and we are going through the bake-in process, if you will, to figure out, okay, now that Yaesu has a product out, which they sold very aggressively, which is what companies do, how are we going to implement permanent fixes? We'll have full control capability. We'll have what appears to be the potential of programming the controller to announce verbally a variety of messages, like on the Wednesday of the club meeting night, stating at some frequency that tonight is the PARC meeting night. So, hands, applause to Bernie for figuring out all of it. And I think you'll find your paycheck will increase this month. This is not easy. What we're facing is a brand new technology architecture that Yaesu put on the market, and they too don't have a complete understanding of what hams traditionally want, like the courtesy. Why did they not implement that when they started? I don't know. Maybe in Japan they don't need it. Those are the things we're all learning. What was that, Mr. CW?
But they're all courteous in Japan. You know how they're very courteous. They don't need to be.
We're trying to make sure that the new controller will allow continuous wave modulation through the call center. Where's the membership chairman? Mr. Chairman. Over to Glenn for appropriate comments.
I
Okay, as of this afternoon, we have 197 regular current paid-up memberships, 21 heads of family memberships, and 17 family members, and 1 honorary life membership for a total of 236 members, which is down, I think, 8 or 9 since last month, and that's because people's memberships have expired and they haven't renewed. So go to the website, there's a page called Join Us, there's a link there for clicking to check your current registration, and click on that, it'll tell you when your membership dues expire. There's a link for bringing up the application for filling out a new form. You can use PayPal to pay for it. Simple, easy. It gives me a chance to collect new and fresh information. I give a check that what I've got in database is accurate. And if you have a meeting and you want to pay and you don't have cash, our treasurer, wherever Tom is, can now accept credit card payments with his iPhone. Thank you.
Any questions on that? Okay. I want to encourage you, how many of you have participated in answering the request from the ARRL to communicate with our elected leaders about the Ham Radio Parity Act? Please raise your hand. Well, I see many hands that haven't gone up. How many of you don't know what the Amateur Radio Parity Act is about? Okay. Make a long story short, courtesy of some interest by the Homeland Defense Agency, there has been renewed interest in making sure that ham radio is an available resource for emergency communications in the event of a terrorist attack. That started about 3.5 years ago. Through the ponderous labyrinthine mechanisms of our federal government, you all know how well that works. The Homeland Defense Organization asked the Federal Communications Commission to do an analysis and study of what the amateur radio community could bring to the venue of communications. And one of the things that came out from that study is that a significant number of members of the amateur radio community who have a federally issued license are prevented from exercising their federally granted rights because of homeowners' restrictions on antennas. Out of that, there's a move going through Congress that would make restriction of antenna, a blanket restriction of antennas in homeowners associations unacceptable. I said blanket. The story of Poway was one of the things that we prevailed through was the city had a blanket prevention on towers. Blanket, meaning if you want a tower, ain't gonna happen. Homeowners associations are seen the same way. If you go to the ARRL website, it's arrl.log, those of you who don't know what the ARRL website is, and you enter the search for Ham Radio Parity Act, you will take it.
Their website, arrl.org.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I said org. Regrets. You'll find the page wherein you select the mechanism by which your particular zip code will track to your elected representatives, and a form letter is available. You will find it unusual that the ARRL wants you to mail them a letter to the United States Post Office. Why would you do something so silly nowadays? You know? Because if you just send an email to Congressman Schmaltz, nobody reads it. They get thousands of them. So the ARRL collects all the mailed letters, and a representative of the ARRL walks office to office to office in Congress to ask that people get behind the Parity Act, which will prevent homeowner associations from a blanket prevention of amateur radio events. That is not a reason to walk out of here and tell your homeowner association, I'm gonna put up a 500-foot tower. No, that's not what it says. It will require that they make acceptable accommodation for you to exercise your amateur radio license, which is a federal grant, no different than when people were given a federal grant for land in Nevada, because they were supposed to go out there and use the grant to develop their land. Same thing with amateur radio. Any questions? I hope those of you who haven't done what I talked about, go write your letters. I have. We have some club-sponsored activities coming up. Joe, you may have to come and relieve me here by my voice, but too many hours on the road today controlling traffic as a sheriff volunteer. We have an interfaith fair on April 23rd. Some information and scope is perhaps a little confusing. No, PARC isn't sponsoring it. PARC is sponsoring a club activity at the internet fair, at the interfaith fair. Those of you who show up and sign the attendance roster will earn participation points. How many people don't know what a participation point is? Okay, PARC historically has allowed your presence at activities to accumulate points. Every time you show up, you get a point. And at the annual picnic, those points translate to opportunities for the picnic drawings. So, I'm gonna get a few more points. The address of the Interfaith Fair, which is down in Oceanside, is in the scope. Likewise, there is an operating day scheduled on May 4th. The operating day historically has been performed by the Six Shooter Club and the Palomar Club, primarily. One down at Fry's in downtown, one up at Fry's in San Marcos. Where is the greatest number of geeks congregating at the Fry's? San Marcos or downtown? Well, it sure is downtown, because at San Marcos, you mostly get people who are completely unaware of technology, with some exception. So, the board of directors agreed with the Six Shooter Club that this year, the May operating event, we would participate with them at the Fry's in downtown. The fall operating day will be done in San Marcos, and they will participate with us up here. Details in the scope. Field day. Brian, where are you? Stand up, Brian. AG6CF is a field day chairman. We have a preliminary plan. A little bit of this was discussed briefly with Greg, who was the field day chair last year, but not much. Preliminary plan. Notice the word preliminary.
That means it might change.
And there are some things happening, but right now, we're locked in to the Valley Center site we had last year. Looking at the demographics that have changed in the club. Once upon a time, we ran 7 Alpha. Remember that, Dennis? When was the last time you went to field day?
94?
Well, no. 2002, as I remember, up at Stan Moore's house. But all of those guys are pretty much doing other things now. So, we're thinking of a 3 Alpha operation. 1 station running CW. That's da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Those of you who don't know what CW means. Things like RON, K2RP, did-it-dum-dum-did-it. 1 station running CW on all bands, and 2 stations running single sideband on 20, 15, 40, and 80 as an effort to attract hands. All of you know, hopefully, a technician who wants to maybe get a general, bring him to field day, and let them operate on sideband. Same things we did last year, picnic on Saturday afternoon, leftovers, well, I shouldn't say leftovers, selected specialties for dinner Saturday night, and then the remainder of the selected specialties preserved overnight in a temperature-controlled environment for breakfast on Sunday morning. And we need help to set that up. Any questions on that? Oh, and a go-to station, which doesn't fully count for the number of stations you have on the air, more on that later. John, you, UG7 CF. You do know your call center.
You put a J on it now. I'm John. I'm a simple soul and I do simple things. We've noticed that there are a lot of new people to ham radio in the group, and we also know that Kevin is working with scouts and things like that. And it just hit me that it would be nice to have an activity where new people could get out there and actually use their radios rather than sit and talk about it. So I'm envisioning an activity tentatively scheduled for Saturday, May the 7th at 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning at a venue near here. Won't say which one it is yet, outdoor. I checked it out, had the permission, and it has good simplex coverage all the way through. I envision having 6 experienced operators out there with their HT set on one specific simplex frequency, and they'll be scattered throughout this venue. And then the people, and they will also have a log sheet. And then the people who are going to come out and play the game, young people or new people or whatever, you know, I'm inviting the new people to the group. I will give them a map, give them a sign-off sheet, and give them one of the frequencies. Their job is to set that frequency into their radio. Call control on it. Control, this is AC7GK. Control will enter the name on the log. You got to be logged in. Otherwise, you can just wander around because you're going to find these people. And if all you do is wander and find them, it doesn't do the radio. And control will give some sort of a cryptic idea of where they are. For example, if I'm running it in a mall and we have the control in the tool department of the Sears store, he could or she could get on and say, I am where we take tools seriously. But in the same way. And so the searcher will figure that out, will find this person, walk up to them, give them the frequency that they are using to make sure that they have the right one. The control will sign up on their sign-up sheet and give them the next frequency. And then they call that frequency and Liberty Lip-Off, they go to the next one. And they'll be setting 6 different frequencies into their radio, being on the radio, getting guidance, going and checking in and out. And when they get all of that done, they come see me again, and I'll give them a certificate, which it just commemorates the day and the fun thing they did and the achievement that they did. So the people I talked to, I talked to one mall cop about it. He was so excited, he wants to come join us. I didn't invite him. But at any rate, it could be a fun activity. But I sort of need to have an idea of who would be willing to participate. So I put up a clipboard here where you can sign in with your name, your call sign, your email address, and then whether or not you want to be a searcher, a new person who's actually participating in it, if you want to be one of the 6 control operators, or if you want to be an Elmer and come out and help people who might be having trouble setting simplex frequencies into their radio. Any questions on that? It's tentative, it's up in the air. Let's find out how many people would like to do it and get out and have a good time. Any questions? Thank you, AC7.
All right. Thanks for that. Charlie gave up the microphone because his voice is giving out. So I'm Joe, your Vice President, K6JPE. And the scope, many of you may have noticed, came out a little bit late this month. There were some technical difficulties, and that's pretty much all it is. We'll try to get it out on the Friday before the meeting, but this is all volunteers, and paychecks will be docked as appropriate. So that's all on that one. There is an ears auction coming up May 23rd. April 23rd, sorry. April 23rd, ears auction at, do we know location?
It's a church.
It's in the scope. Okay, check your scope for more information on the ears auction. Goodie table, you have anything to say for us?
Yeah, we've got quite a few items this month that are free. I'm just trying to clean them out. Mostly all came from W9FQN. And what doesn't get out of here tonight is going to go find the recycle bin, because I've hauled it over here a couple of times already. We've also got a couple of pay items, a nice transport case for a Go Box, and rolls of solder and things like that. And we've got some rigs here on the floor. Anyway, and we've got servo stuff. Looks like good robot making equipment and things in the back. So we've got actually 2 goodie tables over here. So anyway, it's a nice turnout tonight, and I'm finding good homes for some of this stuff.
Good deal. There is a second goodie table in the back there. All of these stuff, it hasn't quite found new homes yet, but there's a lot of good stuff there left. A lot of it was in the scope. And if you wave your hand, who's selling it? You are, yeah. Greg, is it? Yeah. So Ed's waving his hand back there. See him and tell. All right. Fantastic. Thank you. What is your call sign? KF6CARO. Kilo Mike 6 Alpha Romeo Oscar. Amateur radio operator. Okay. The one other thing about operating day, any members who come and sign in on the roster for operating day down at Fry's in San Diego will, in addition to their participation point, be entered to win a Woshin, Watson, however you pronounce it, HT radio, VHF, UHF, dual band. The information on that specific model is in the scope, but hey, free radio. You have that pre-programmed, or we will hopefully have a pre-programmed with all the San Diego stuff. Oh yes. You have to show up in person to sign the roster, but you do not have to be present to win. Okay, and introductions. Repeater Site and Technical are both Mark, KF6WTN, who is not here tonight, I believe. The scope editor, Michelle, W5NYB, back there in the back. Can't miss her. And another fantastic scope this month, just keeps getting better and better. your director, KK6FRK, Kevin. I believe he's doing a scouting event and is not here. Yeah. Oh, he's back there? Oh, there he is. Yeah, Kevin back there. Thank you. And John, you already heard from AC7GK.
Yeah!
And I was correcting it off of what I was reading, because that's not what it says. Membership chair, KJ6ZQH, Glenn, who you already heard from. Treasurer is Tom, W0NI, who waved earlier. And see him, he'll take your money. Secretary, KK6EED, Sandy, up here taking notes diligently. And I'm your Vice President, Joe, K6JPE, and you heard from Charlie, your President, and then Preeti. Do we have any visitors tonight for the first time? Can we welcome you? Yes? Can you stand up and tell us where you're from and are you a ham? KI6SYN from Vista. And your handle? Your name? Michael. Welcome. Marcus. Oh, Marcus. Okay. Any other visitors? How about new hams? Just got your license. How about any upgrades? Just got, oh, fantastic.
Michael, come on.
Kilo 5 Traffic Hotel Charlie Lima. I got my action.
KF6HOI?
HCL.
HCL.
For now. Until Dennis and I are working on the future.
Okay, fantastic. Congratulations. Any other upgrades? No? Okay, Charlie. All right, and on to our program, demonstration of remote control by Brian. Is this right? KF6, yeah, KF6C. Is that right? Yes. Okay. Fantastic. If you didn't capitalize the app.
Well, I guess there's not so many of that. Anyway, good evening, everybody. We're talking tonight about remote control of radios over internet, mostly HF, because that has the greatest use. And I guess to some degree in the discussion of this Parity Act, if that doesn't go through, you might need this even more than you would normally, because this is the only way you're going to get on the air unless you've got a special site. Anyway, if we get on. This setup uses the Elecraft K3, and it's a K3S, but it doesn't really matter. The 3 and the S are very similar devices. You can upgrade the 3 to be very close to what the S does anyway. And it uses a remote control box, which is this box here, shown up next to the radio, to interface the radio to the internet. Now,
could we turn the house lights down a bit?
Turn
the house lights, can we turn them
Oh,
down?
yeah. Okay. Okay, so it will work with a number of other radios. I have no idea how well the other radios work. I've only done this one. That was some of the problem in some cases. Now, the setup used here is a little more complex than shown. But this is a high-end setup. It's not a. Is that better? Oh, I apologize. Okay, this is a high-end setup. It's not a really cheap setup. It's about $1,000 for the remote control station. So it's not a low-cost setup, but it is a very high-performance internet link. Now, the radio operates very similar to what the standard radio operates. There's very little difference in operating between using the remote station and using the direct station. There are, however, a couple of issues with it. If you tune the radio, you have some latency involved in there. When you're tuning sideband stations, if you're anything like me, you're tuning it fairly quickly, and that gets a bit difficult because you've gone past where the tuning is before you realise it. So you have to be a little slower in tuning the radio. CW is another issue where latency comes in. If you start listening to what you're sending, you're a couple of dots out, and it causes problems. This setup overcomes that by a special control within the internet box that avoids that problem. You've still got changeover issues when you switch from transmit to receive. You've got to wait for the latency of the internet connection. It's not as fast as just operating your rig normally.
But you might say if you're not contesting, there won't be a problem.
Yeah, if they're not contesting, there's probably, well, I don't know. It depends how you like it. It takes a while to get used to. And contesting is obviously another issue as to how well it works for that. And I'm not, although I've taken part in some contests, I'm not a serious contester, I guess. Now this diagram shows the normal setup. On the left-hand side here, you have the control station, whereby you have your key or microphone, the small control box, and a control radio. This particular radio is just a control. This particular unit is just a control radio. There is no radio part. There's no radio as such within this box. You could also use a standard radio as a control unit, in which case you're still not using the radio sections, but it will act as a controller for another remote radio. So that connects to the radio, and then that links to internet, you go through internet, links to another control box, which controls the actual remote radio. And the remote radio can be quite a sophisticated setup. You can have a power amplifier. This particular unit does not allow antenna rotation. That would have to be done on a separate link. And there are a couple of other points that it doesn't allow you to do with this particular setup. In this case, the control is a little more complex because I don't have a direct internet connection from the control box into the local area network. So what we have is we have the K3 Mini, which is this device, the control box, and then it's linking via Wi-Fi to a cellular phone, which I have on the floor here, and then that's going to internet via a mobile hotspot. So it's a little more complex. There's quite a few radios involved in it, if you think about it.
You're uploading and downloading instead of phones. But you're uploading and downloading instead of
It's the upload and download speed is not that fast, but I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. This particular remote radio is running 40 through 6 meters into a stepper DB18, which is at my house, and you can go on. We can go on here now. And this is 40 meters through that antenna. I also have a 160 meter antenna, which is, as it says there, is offset fed, and it's effectively a beam antenna because of where it's positioned on the hill. But and it works extremely well to the east. It doesn't work at all to the west. As it points out on the bottom, that's not a perfectly accurate statement, but it's approximately right. This setup shows the setup at the house. Actually, this is a grown 25 tower, and this section here that you can see is the tuner. Is a tuner set. Is a remote tuner, which is tuning the low frequency antenna, and then you have the stepper antenna. This is the amplifier. And then this is the actual radio that we're listening to. This radio receives and transmits the signals. It also has the displays. Now, the displays are not available at the moment remotely. If I go back to the other point, as you can see, there are remote. There is the PAN adapter on there. Unfortunately, it's not available remotely. There are two possible ways of incorporating this: to add a camera that is looking at those displays and can transmit that over the internet so you can control it, and also get a video adapter card which will also transmit it over internet. I haven't decided how to hook that up at this time, so it's still left unconnected. Okay. When I started out, I thought that this was going to be easy. I have a 200 megabit link to Cox, and they talk about only needing a few hundred kilobits per second. So I thought, okay, that's not going to be the issue. I don't have any problem there. When I hooked the setup up, I got the control of the radio really easily. That worked fine. But when it came to the audio, there were breaks. About once a second, there'd be a gap. And this continued for a long time. And I started looking very carefully at the signals that were being transmitted over internet. And the first thing I came across was someone somewhere in Asia was sending messages, pinging non-stop to see what they could find on my network. Well, I guess after some time they got bored with that because they weren't getting anywhere, so that stopped. But I still had, the problem didn't go away. I spent a lot of time talking to remote rig, and they could not see anything wrong. They tried interfacing with the radio, and they commented that it was really slow. So at that point, I started saying, well, I have a supposedly high-speed link via Cox. So why is it slow? And I quoted to remote rig, it's showing at times 200 megabits per second, which it was. But if I studied it carefully and started looking at it, it was also dropping down to a few kilobits a second at times. And that turned out to be the issue. Although they sell you this high-speed link at 200 megabits per second, there's a couple of words in there that say up to, and up to also includes 0. So that can be a little bit of a problem. Anyway, after several modem changes and all sorts of other things, and then going out and checking it and coming back and all sorts of excuses, I find, well, it appears to me that your system's too slow and I need to change to a DSL system or something else that might be a little faster. At that point, they went away and came back the next day and said, we've changed your service, it cost you another $3, but we've made some changes to it. I'm not totally sure what they did, but they did correct the problem. And I didn't pay for the full $1,000 business line either. So, but anyway, as a warning, it may not be what it appears to be. Other methods of control, this network here, this is using the aircraft radio directly. If I turn this, bypass something here I meant to do, I don't know quite where I missed out. Anyway, I'm going to turn this off. When I turn that off, it turns off the radio at the house as well. The whole thing has gone off at this point. And I just want to pass this around so I can do. I can pass this around. This is the radio. You've got total control of it at the house on this tablet. As you can see, there's a little knob on it. If you turn it, you will tune the radio. Awesome. This is supposed to work on the phone. Okay. The setup you have on the tablet is supposed to be direct work on the phone, but I've spent a lot of time with the remote rig discussing the S6 because when I first got it, it worked fine, but then the S6 was upgraded by T-Mobile, and it all dropped out, didn't work anymore. So by that time, I'd applied for a license for the device. I wasn't using the sample period, and I had no control. I couldn't get past the license issue. It kept coming up and saying, no license, no license. After a lot of discussion with remote rig, they finally gave up on me and said, we can't make it work with your phone. I did find out by some fluke that if I messed around with it and I pressed it 4 times, sometimes the phone started working perfectly. I also had taken a phone away from one of my daughters for some reason, and it was still running on the old operating system. So I tried that out, and that worked fine. And then it got upgraded, and that was the end of that. But anyway, it's supposed to work on all Android systems, but it does not work on the S7 and the S6. I say the S7 because I thought, well, there's a chance if I go down and upgrade to an S7, it'll work. So I went in, no, it doesn't. Anyway. The other thing that can be done here is to control the radio via the PC. And this we have here a setup that will link to the radio via the PC, right? Either by Ham Radio Deluxe or by the K3 suite. I guess I would like to interrupt you for a minute and disconnect that. You can have it back. I'm not taking it away. I just got to turn it off. There's too many. So I've turned that off now. That's disconnected the radio because the radio will not talk to 2 at once. It has an objection to that. Anyway, if I now connect this. Now this is connected, this computer, to the radio, and if I go on to here, and I have this is Win 4K3. I don't particularly like this program because it doesn't allow very much control of the frequency. But I think you can see that this is also another control. Now, in this case, we're not using any of the aircraft control sections. It's purely using an external connection to the computer, and either, in the case of aircraft, you can use the Win for aircraft, Win for K3 suite, or you can use Ham Radio Deluxe. Both of those will control the radio. It's a very good question. The reason I played with this is because there is a serious cost difference. This little gadget here is $200, and this program is $50. So it's $250. And there's no what that $1,000 setup does. Now, let me take that back a little bit. It does close to what that does. There are a few things that are an issue. One of them is, as you saw that I showed you the antenna tuner that's on the tower, that tuner tunes the low frequency antenna. This cannot read the SWR on the transmitter. And that becomes important because you can't see whether the antenna tuner has worked or not, and then you don't know what you're radiating into. And that particular antenna is really bad. Although it's a big antenna, it's close to end fed, which means that it has to be exactly tuned for it to work. When it is tuned exactly, it works really well, but it's slightly off, it's really bad. So you have no way of knowing whether the antenna is tuned or not. And being as you're running the amplifier on here, you're putting 500 watts in what may be an unknown antenna, and you're not even there. That's not a particularly tough thing to do. So if that becomes an issue, this device will indicate the SWR on the antenna and will tune everything beautifully. It really works really well. I've had some discussions today with Tom, who designed this program, and I guess it comes down to, can we bug aircraft enough to give the information to be able to use this program to control the
They have their own.
transmitter. They have their own, well, yeah, they may not have the incentive to do it. This is a worldwide program, though. There's a lot of people out there, and they listen fairly well to complaints and issues, so I don't know. We have to go through that now. And the program that's on this device is about $35, I think, for that device. Now if I go back here and shut that down, now again, that has turned the radio off at the house. It's all off. I can come back over here, reconnect this one, and this one will come back on. This particular program is not as nice as it looks, and sometimes I have to fiddle with it to get it to work.
What program is on the tablet?
It's called Nana.
Probably. Have you tried to use the RCF or program from Telegraph on the tablet?
No.
But it's Android, and you got Windows on the tablet, you want the RCF or.
Okay, I don't know. I haven't tried this one. No.
I can.
Okay. Okay, I'll let you play with that just for a little bit, and then I'm going to take it back again. Keep taking it back. Anyway, Having taken all that off, I can turn this radio back on again. And it takes it a little while sometimes to gain access again.
Why? Words. That's complicated.
I think I must be playing too many games on the internet at home.
Yeah, the one that doesn't work.
That is a long time to be. Usually it's quicker than that, or else I'm more sensitive to how long it's taking. Yeah. No, control alt delete doesn't work. The power switch works, you turn it off, and then you turn it back on again after and see what it comes up. It had got control because it gave the terminal indicator on there, which is meaning that it's got connection. When the terminal comes up, it tells you that it's connected to the radio at the house. But now I don't know quite what it's doing. No, it won't work. If the tablet's connected, it won't work. I turned the tablet off. I thought I did anyway. No, I did turn the tablet off. It's gone. Anyway, so this has complete control of everything that the radio at the house has. And if I switch bands, I can work my way through the bands, and now I'm 14. I think it died over again. The stepper can switch. It's not actually hooked up to switch at the moment. I haven't gone that far. It had a hang up there on switching that. It's come back now. Okay, so it's 14. 18. Okay. Right, so I'm waiting for this thing to go, so we can carry on. Maybe I can open it to questions at the moment. If there are any specific questions that I can answer that will speed things up.
In case you guys don't know, we're trying this with the contest station at NX16 in Fallbrook. We're trying to remote, and we're trying to remote and do contesting. So if you have no life, if you have any hair left, go ahead and try and do a remote and deal with all this craziness with latency and bandwidth. And it's better to have high speed on both ends.
This is not a jammer, this is a beacon, this is a little quiz. You see, who can tell me what frequency this beacon's on and where it is? It will key in a minute. Within a minute, it will key. supported at the wrong time, obviously. I'm not telling the frequency. I left that up for someone to tell me what frequency it is.
K6QPVD up in Long Beach or somewhere.
That's right, K6QPV. Who can tell me what frequency that's on? Well, you might be able to read it from there very well either. So, anyway. There's the frequency that it's on. It's on 10 gigahertz. There's a transverter attached to the radio at the house that will transfer the 10 gigahertz. So, and that's what that beacon is from San Diego.
So is that coming into the radio at 10 meters?
No, it's 10 gigahertz, 10,368.36 megacyte.
Right.
Megacyte.
It's coming into K3.
It's coming in the K3 at the house. And that is being sent via internet across to the remote station here. And you'll hear it.
But what band is it coming transferred to on K3?
Oh, it's transverting onto 50 megacycles.
Oh, 60.
That's not a common IF frequency to use, but I like to use it because A, it's on the radio without going through a second. There is a 144 megacycle transverter on the one at the house as well. But that would mean converting from 10 gigahertz to 2 meters down to 28 megacycles, and I go straight to 50 megacycles, and it's got good enough filters in it that it can deal with that. There's the antenna that's actually on the dish that's doing that now. And if I go now, the K3 that is there is heading to New York later in the spring, and if I go to, this is where the radio is going after it's finished here. This is the house where it's going in New York. And as a little side attraction, here's a silly little thing about this house that may or may not interest people, but this guy here is a news guy who runs around looking at these things.
You hear that? What is that? Did Lucille Ball ever live at Shenango Lake? That was the question. More than 3,000 people looked at my post trying to figure it out. And the answer is yes, she did. Now here's what we got. She didn't home, but she stayed a lot out here at Shenango Lake. You know where I am? I'm at Shenango Lake, and I think I'm at the home she stayed at. It's a sprawling mansion on top of Shenango Lake, and there's the carriage house right there. And of course, everybody told me that it's right by the gigantic AT&T tower. And people who said they worked at the AT&T tower saw Lucy here in the days. I'm guessing that's the AT&T tower. Now, she stayed at belonged to the Eaton family, E-A-T-O-N, and they're a big Norwich name and big with Norwich Pharmaceuticals. And Lucy and Desi and little Ricky and little Lucy all came out here for summers and stayed here, and it's for sale. And there it is. It's kind of rough looking. I think that this is the place that everybody said that Lucille Ball used to stay at Shenango Lake, and it's for sale. And if Lucy
Anyway, that's where the antenna is going, or where the other radio is going, complete with the amplifier and another stepper IR antenna. I hope to get that going sometime later this year. But
When for 4K3 run within a client server mode? Can you run Win 4K3 in a client server mode like you can the Elecraft program, RCF? One of the guys sent me a question on it. They told me remote talk tonight.
okay, I don't have a direct answer for that. I use the micro extender PARC, and I haven't tried anything like that. It took me a really long time to get the internet working. It took me over a month to playing with that. That's probably one of the biggest issues, and it still is the biggest issue as to why you get problems. It drops out unless you've got a guaranteed speed limit. It can be a problem. That's one of the things that worries me about New York. It's 200 miles from one of the biggest cities in the world, but it might as well be a third world country because there's nothing there. And getting internet is a real problem. But I'm hoping it will work well enough.
Can I make a comment to the crowd about the overall thing here?
Sure.
Save you a lot of time, because as much time as Brian has wasted, we're wasting. And good luck to the Palomar group on their remote radio setup. If you don't eat bits and bytes for breakfast, if you're not a computer expert, data expert, well, you can have a lot of fun. The bottom line is if you're in a place where you can't get an HF setup and you want HF from home, the best deal is to spend $1,000, because you would spend that on a decent radio anyway if you were getting on HF for the equipment. The two pieces of the equipment, which is the little 1-inch stick. Can you hold that up, Brian? The 1-inch stick, that's $700. Okay, that's a control head, and it thinks it has a real Elecraft radio on the other end, which you would subscribe to. The Elecraft radio being next to Brian, which is all the big unit up. So it'd be like you have one of these, the whole radio, which can cost you anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, nicely equipped.
You can actually get one of these
for
about $2,000, and that will replace this, but it will still work as a radio at other times.
Yeah, you could buy a bare bones radio for $2,000.
A lot of people say that's a much better way to go than buy this device.
I don't know about that, but that's
Well, I've seen reports that say that.
But the bottom line is, you can subscribe to, what's their site, remoteradio.com, remotehands.com. And you pay an annual fee, and you get 2 different flavors depending on how much you want to operate. And the nice thing is you can sit at home and you can use radio sites all over the world that you can hook into. Now, the legality of if you're trying to get work all the expeditions or countries and all, I don't know, you guys, I'm more of a contester than a DXer, but probably you're going to link it to a U.S. site that has massive 200-foot towers, and you will break the pileup on the 3rd call, at least. And it will be yours, you'll get a QSL card, you'll get DXCC, and you'll pay by the minute. You just pay for the service by the minute or buy it by the hour. If you want a contest, I guess you can buy the site for the whole weekend. But if you're doing it just buying it in little snippets, it's not that bad. And you know, depending on how much operating you do at home, and how you link into the site, and I guess they can have multiple people connected to different sites. They'll tell you on their website how many sites you can access, and that's a way to get on HF with a really powerful station with basically $1,000 setup on your end, which is not a lot of money when you're talking about HF rigs, and you don't have to put up a tower, you don't have to put up an antenna, but you must have a really good internet connection at your place. And if you don't, you're just going to suffer because the latency is going to kill you. So you need something like get Cox or Time Warner, and then make sure you're getting what you think you're getting, like with Brian. Oh, we're going to give you up to 200 megabytes. Yeah, well, he had 0 until they fixed it. So, but Elecraft has their own little program also, which is free.
And you can actually bring that up on your computer, spend nothing. You go to different people's sites, you get a skin, picture of a K3, which most of the buttons and things work, and you just ask permission of people all over the world. Hey, can I use your radio? Can I transmit it? Nobody else is using it. So there, all you need is a laptop and a headset. And CW is a little more tricky. Well, I don't want to get into that now, but I can tell you that later if you want to work Morse code. But with a headset, you can have a radio and you don't even spend 1,000. And you can have a lot of fun even doing that. And N6KI@arrl.net for any questions in the future about crazy remoting. We're in the midst of it. We'll save you a lot of heartache and grief.
Ryan, question.
Yes, go ahead.
Using your K3 remote head, how much of your metering functions work over the internet? You mentioned earlier SWR, ALC, do those things work?
All of the K3 metering works. It's a little trickier to get the amplifier is not indicating fully on that only, but I can link it in with another. It just takes another IP address. I mean, you need a separate IP address for the radio, for the amplifier, the tuner, and the rotator as well. You end up using separate IP addresses, and that has to be set up. But it can be done.
But once you have it set up, it's done forever.
Right.
When you say separate IP addresses, do you mean inside your network or do you mean publicly accessible?
No, inside your network.
Okay, so
I mean,
it's
really, it's the same IP address. It's different ports that are needed. I'm not an internet expert.
Okay.
We were having problems with latency. Anything else going on from the network?
Yeah, well, I have my son playing games, and that is the secondary issue. But I can shut him down. I can go up there and say, "Quick, you're not doing that now." Or I can actually go into the router and shut him down. As soon as he comes down, charging down, put that to the internet.
That's actually not necessary.
Yeah, but it's beyond that. The problems were way beyond that. They were, because we went through it with the Cox personnel. We shut absolutely everything off, and it still wasn't able to do it, and it was recording speeds of 3 kilobits a second. I mean, and the next minute it would be up to 200. I mean,
But it seems to be fine now.
It seems to be fine now. Yeah, we haven't had any problems, and even since they've been in there, since they made the changes, my kid can now run his computer game, and I can run this. I'm sure he's been running it all night, so I haven't had to call him up and say stop doing it. I don't know. We do. The fact is, we're on top of a hill. I don't know how much service is up there, and how many people are using it, and what the bandwidth of it to that point is. I'm not an expert. I don't know. I don't think. Yeah, I think it's more the number of people on it and how much bandwidth they're using at a given time. But I don't know.
Actually, I'd just like to give a little input. I've been doing it for about 3 years.
Get the mic.
PARC 1258 unit. I simply set it up at home, take the other half with me, I go off. I use the Kenwood TS480HX. I take the control head with me. The body of the radio stays at home. When I'm off on the road, I have my tablet with me. And so I just look straight through the tablet wirelessly when I'm away. The home unit is plugged right straight into the router. And it works great every single time. Never any problems. And you're right, if you don't have your speeds, that's a problem. But I tried for a while when I go away to try to hook up with maybe the internet at the place that we were staying at. And I found after a while it's too much hassle. It's better to have that hotspot with me. And I hook right to them. I use those 2 units and it works wonderfully. I do it for Big Bear and I do it for Hawaii. I've done it for 3 years. It's really smooth to work. But you don't have to have the Elecraft. The other
Sure. I think that there are a lot of ways of being able to do it, other than the Elecraft way. The Elecraft way is, as I mentioned at the beginning, is a top of the line system. It makes it really easy, and Dennis says it's not that expensive if you compare it with other ways of going. And it is a complete system. It behaves like radio. And other than latency issues with tuning and with CW, it behaves just like a regular radio. In fact, in talking to mobile, I have run the thing mobile, and in fact, I find it quite interesting that it's a good way of checking what T-Mobile's coverage is, because whenever you go out of the coverage, it drops out for a while and then comes back on again, and it comes back on fairly quickly, but it doesn't drop out while it's mobile, while it hasn't got it. But I can drive from here to LA, and I've got mobile, I've got communication all the way with only a couple of dropouts.
It's really funny. When I go up, I always end up in the garage, and I use the remote in the garage to put them away, and then I'll talk to a group that's like, let's say 3 in the afternoon, because I might be and so we'll talk, and then the plane the next day, I get to set up the day or so later, I get with the same group. It is really, that's a 2-hour situation. That's probably the cleanest thing you'll ever do. But setting it up, that's the hardest part. I don't know how you figured out how to do all the work and everything. I needed real help. But once you get it, once you get all that stuff down, you'll never have to touch it again.
Yeah, there's a good point brought up there too about setting all the ports up. There's a lot of addresses that have to be correct to make it work fully, and you have to follow those instructions very carefully, and it's not always obvious what they mean and in the documentation. It sometimes takes a lot of reading before you fully understand it.
I have Elecraft and I found their service part very, very helpful. How are they?
They are a good service department, but as far as this issue is concerned, they're not that good. It's almost a waste of time. They will tell you people who you can go to and will help you. They just wash their hands off it. And that they told me right at the beginning when I bought the 1258, we won't sell you the wireless Wi-Fi network because it doesn't work. And I went through no end of wireless networks. I was trying to attach the thing, and in the end I said, I'm going to go buy the right one and see whether it works. And I bought the right one, plugged it in, and it was there.
If you buy one of the remote radio boxes and you're gonna need Wi-Fi with it, order the Wi-Fi built in, because if you buy the Wi-Fi board later, unless you have access to somebody who has a company that does surface mount, you will go crazy trying to unsolder and solder and small holes on the board and put a socket on the board, all kinds of crazy stuff. Something happened with an upgrade for these remote radio boxes. They're not meant for the average bear. So buy the remote radio boxes with all the options you think you're going to use. Do not try to physically install them yourselves unless you have surface mount and suction, desoldering, and RF soldering or anything like that.
Well, I had a different experience in that. All I can say is I bought this one from Elecraft. It did not have the remote. It did not have the Wi-Fi in there. I bought the Wi-Fi from a remote rig from Sweden, and it came. And I just plugged it in and it worked. I could have put in a surface mount parts. I have facilities to do that, but I did not have to do it. It was simple and it worked immediately. But you know, these experiences are there sometimes. They're not as easy as it appears.
Let me give you an example of the other way of doing it. This is a Flex 6700. If you buy Flex 6300 for $2,300, plug it into the internet. You put on the K6TU remote app on your iPad or iPhone. You can run it on the iPhone. And I've been in 27 countries running it, so it's so much easier than all that crazy complicated.
Bring lots of money.
Well, I understand what you're saying there. I'm not sure that really it is that much easier. If I didn't have the internet problems that I had, I wouldn't have had.
You don't buy any extra equipment. plug it into the internet, you turn it on, and it works.
It would not have worked because the internet link did not work. Found out the internet link did not work. There's no way, if your internet link does not work, you cannot do it.
I've run it over 3G at 1.5 megabits per second from a ship off coast of Greece. So come on, it couldn't be any worse than that.
Well, I guarantee it would not have worked at my house because we ran the test and the speed was not there. I mean, you weren't talking, it was a reported 200 megabit link, and it was less than a kilobit at times. And then you cannot, I mean, the radio worked, it had perfect control. There was no time that it lost control. You just heard a second of audio and a break, another second of audio and another break. And then it would suddenly go away and it was perfectly clear. And then you get another section that was doing that. There's been no changes in how the radio works from that time. Now, I'm not disputing that the flex system may be easier. It has, basically the flex system has a local area network connection on that you're going to put in, you're going to set up what your IP is, and then as long as you set the same on the computer, it's done. And that's it. I mean, there's no question about that.
There's no ports to set up, there's no complicated any of that nonsense.
It's actually, it's running on 40, it's 300 on the other.
Are there any more questions?
I just want to clarify, just make a comment that I don't know if people,
I just want to make a comment. I don't know if people understand that the latency issue has to do with time delays in the network. And one of the things that is critical, the commands that the radio uses use very little, require very little throughput. The commands are 4 byte words usually, and their settings, the RS-232 is very slow speed. Most of them are RS-232. What really takes up bandwidth is problematic latency is a stream of audio, and it's bi-directional audio. We're looking for Richard P. Merrill. Is Richard P. Merrill here?
Right here.
So I just wanted to let people know if they weren't aware of it, that the audio is what's.
All right, thank you everybody for coming. Next meeting is the first Wednesday of next month, and we will have an APRS practical demonstration and talk. So APRS next month, right here, first Wednesday. Thanks everyone. I have a Bud Light pen here that made its way around with the footboard. Anybody missing their Bud Light pen? No? Okay. Yes?
You always had a
right now, everyone's
This is half. Basically, you're adding boxes on Let it go. Yeah. So I didn't go to school, my neighbors have gone. And every time one comes out, it's pretty much.
So, see you too. So, I now live walking distance from the training centers. Yes. If I remember, I'll put it on my calendar.
Like I tell you, my beam,
Let me.
my mom wife, it's like an S5. I'm here.
I gotta get
This
this.
guy. This guy.
I do not speak. Not yet. I may be getting.
Yeah, you'll find out pretty soon. I wish, I'd like to find out if there are regulations that say if you above a certain level. How do you get something to measure that? Yes, sir. What have I got? And the other thing that came out, so many people have been doing, yes, right now. Somebody just has the words about it.
The other brand.
Guys on the roof. I don't know. But it's driving me crazy. I tried those. Yeah. But like I work mostly the JT65. It's a very narrow thing. It doesn't bother half the waist. Yeah. But I got the same problem at night too. At night, football, TVs, and dimmer lights and stuff. That noise.
No.
But it's funny. It's like it's different. And it's noise. It's like 17 meters and 15 meters. It's pretty bad. Daytime. 20 meters is still okay. You'll have an experience. I have a